Hello and welcome to Maker Club, brought to you by Tinker Truck. Today we're going to be doing a Learn to Solder project. Specifically, we are going to be making a Snowbot.
This Snowbot is a very simple kit that has
3 LEDs in it and a battery clip in the back. It has 8 solder points, 2 to hold the two to hold the battery clip on, and 2 more each for each of the 3 lights. 8 times we're going to do soldering. It's a very simple kit. We got it actually from Maker Faire Toronto when they ran their event, their Learn to Solder event in 2014. And this is some of their surplus. We love working with Maker Faire surplus kits because they're usually extremely well designed and easy to do. Today we have Owen here. He's going to be doing the soldering. He is 10 years old and he is going to show us how to do soldering.
Yay.
Before we begin, something I'd like to bring your attention to is the Soldering is Easy comic book. It is a free, easy to distribute, royalty-free book that is brought to you by Mitch, Andy, and Jeff of the Mighty Ohm, OHM.com. We'll put those notes in the video. It's a fabulous Learn to Solder comic book that goes through the do's and the don'ts, all the various different things that you need to do when doing a soldering project such as this, and it can teach you just about as much as we can teach you in a video if you're more prone to learning through reading. So we encourage you to check that out. Now, there's a couple of things we need to get going here before we actually begin. First is we need a soldering iron. We haven't plugged this one in, it's not hot yet. We have already done a video about 4 different kinds of soldering irons that we've used to teach children. This particular soldering iron is our favorite.
and easy to hold on to. It is almost like a marker that you would get and use at school.
It's very lightweight, easy to use, and the cord is very flexible. Now, the only downside is that once it's plugged in, it gets hot. There is no switch and there's no temperature control. They're about $20. They're very convenient, and we like them quite a bit for teaching children to solder. We'll plug that in a moment. It comes with a soldering stand,
Which is maybe not as much as you want.
in a proper soldering stand, but we're going to use what came with the kit because that's very likely what you're going to get. We also have here a soldering sponge. This is a
Brass instead of stainless steel. It is very useful for
getting the oxidization off the tip of the soldering iron. As you're working, your soldering iron is going to go from silver to more of a browny color, and that means that stuff has oxidized onto the tip of the soldering
It
iron.
looks like it's more gold.
Yeah, gold is a good
Gold.
Yeah, gold. There's a
And
little
then-
bit of rainbow in there.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool to look at, actually, but it also means that the heat doesn't conduct very well through to the piece you're working on. So we use a sponge to basically sandpaper off that goldy browny color until it's back to silver so that we can work with it. Now, this kit that we're going to be doing is a Snowbot. It has, like I said, 3 LEDs and a battery and a battery holder. When we do it, we want to first check all of our LEDs.
There's a long leg and a short leg for every LED. The long leg connects to the positive side.
Of your battery, and the negative connects to the short leg connects to the negative side of the battery. Yes, you can test all of your batteries and your LEDs by just holding them
Together. Most of the batteries that you would work with for this project are
CR2032 battery. Very easy to come by. You can get them just about anywhere. We use them in almost all of our projects. You can buy them by the 500 for very cheap. You can buy them by the 1 and the 4 at just about any convenience store even usually. They're excellent. They're 3 volts, which means that they perfectly match the LEDs, so you don't have to introduce any sort of resistor. The circuits are extremely simple. Plus, these LEDs are kind of fun because they're red, green, and blue, and they blink and they fade. And we don't have to do anything special to get that to happen. Now, this all comes as a kit, so you're not going to be able to pick it up as individual pieces. But if you're interested, give us a call and we can help hook you up with one of these kits or something very similar. You're going to have a soldering iron in one hand, you're going to have solder in the other hand, and then you've got nothing to hold your project. So, we're going to put them in a third hand like this. You can buy an elaborate third hand from the electronics store. They're about $20, or you can make yourself a third hand very simply out of a clothes peg and a piece of 2x4 for pennies. Very useful, just something to hold your project still while you're working on it. Okay, so we're ready to begin? Okay, a couple of things to remember with soldering. Obviously it gets hot.
Yeah.
Yes, well, now we're going to plug in our soldering iron. I'm going to let it start to heat up. It is on our soldering station. And we're going to cut off a length of solder here. And the easiest way to hold on to the solder is to wrap it around your finger so that you've got good access to it. So you go ahead and get ready with that. Wrap it around the finger of your left hand because you're going to hold the soldering iron in your right hand. Now when you're soldering, what you do is you bring the soldering iron in and you heat up the pad where the soldering iron, where the solder lead is, what the thing you want to connect together. You bring this heat in, you leave it there for 5 or 10 seconds. Then you bring the solder in, you let it melt, connect the two pieces of metal together. Then you take the solder away, and then you take the soldering iron away. Now it's very important. Soldering iron heat, solder in, solder out, soldering iron out. Any other process and you're going to get your solder stuck to your project, which is easily solved. I think that's a little bit too tight. Usually solder does heat up. You don't want it to conduct heat into your finger. You want a nice long strand about this far.
Oh, okay.
There you go, right about there. Soldering iron is solder is nice and stiff. Makes it easy to direct the temperature. Now you can pick up the soldering iron gently. Okay. And do one solder point here. Bring the soldering iron into the pad.
Move that closer.
Yes, we can move it closer. Whatever is most comfortable for the child. Soldering iron in. Solder in. Until it melts, which takes a couple of seconds.
Come on.
Yeah, there it goes. And then solder out, soldering iron out. Excellent. Okay, now we're going to do one of these up close. So that is how we do soldering. It takes a little bit of time, takes a little bit of practice, but it's well worth it. It's a skill that you can use for the rest of your life, and it enables a whole new world of electronics for you. Oh, that's fine. Very simply, once you're done soldering, you can use a pair of wire clippers to snip the pieces off. You should make sure that they don't spew all over the place when they snap off.
Because they go flying.
Because they do go flying.
Don't get hit in the face.
And for a few minutes, a simple $20 tool and a kit from somewhere like us, you can learn to solder, come to one of our classes, or purchase one of our kits, and you can enter this whole new world of electronics hobby making. So was that fun?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Keep making.